fun when the microphone works great, right? You're hearing me just fine? That's a beautiful thing. Because I'm glad to be here, right? Anybody else glad to be here? Figured we needed at least a callback to that one thing. Because I'm sat at this point in time. David says I'm going to stand up here and tell you exactly what to say. But given everything that's already been said, I'm like, kind of hard, right? To be able to build on all the greatness that's been laid down ahead of us. And I'm thinking about where you might be thinking or feeling right now with the information that's been shared with you. Huge amounts of information, huge amounts of wisdom, huge amounts of knowledge, almost to a point of overwhelm. And it made me think about that old saying that knowledge is power. Anybody heard that old saying before, yes or no? Is it true, yes or no? See, in my experience, that is utter nonsense. Complete and utter dribble is that statement, and here's for why. Show of hands in this room, who knows of something they could be doing that would help them better in their role? And is still choosing not to do it. See, it isn't the knowledge that leads to the power, it's the implementation of the knowledge, it's the stuff you choose to do. You've been scribing in your journals, scribing in your notebooks, catching as much of the magic as you possibly can, and I encourage you to do more of the same. But please, rather than taking notes, I want you here in this moment to take notice. Does that sound fair, yes or yes? See, what I'm asking you to give consideration to is in this next 55 minutes or so, I'm going to throw information at you that is like drinking water from a fire hose. I expect you to spill somewhere near most of it. That I believe to be true. But what I want you to do is catch the drops. Catch the drops, put those into work in your own organization. I'm going to do the best I can to run this as a singular conversation, like a workshop. And I've learned that workbooks work better with rules. So here be the rules. Number one is if I ask a question, damn, I love an answer. It helps me know you're listening. Sometimes I might ask questions that require a yes answer or a no answer. And I know speaking up in front of big groups scares some people to death. So I want you to know that I know that this means yes. Shake, I can follow that one too. Occasionally I may ask for a hand up, and ladies and gents, this is a hand up. This is half a hand. This is when is this dude done? 52 minutes and 30 seconds. That's when I'm done. I'm telling you that for a few reasons, really. One, who in this room has a cell phone with them? Yay, we got the hands thing. Do me a favor, and I want you just to open up the camera settings on the phone that you have right now. And many of you might have done this already, but I want you to catch at least one photograph of this event. So if you haven't got one now or you'd like one more, take one more of this moment. And when you have that photo, do me a huge favor, some point onwards from today, share it to your social media, share it to LinkedIn, share it to Instagram, and please, please, pretty please, hashtag TrustEdge. And tell people why they missed out on not being here today, following up with a Jerry style because, right? Add a because that becomes behind that. What else do I need to share with you? The rules is now that you've done that with the phone, please do yourself a favor, flip it over, pop it out of sight. Rules fair, yes or yes? We got that bit too. If I'm listening to everybody I've had the privilege of listening to since the start of yesterday, there's one thing I've noticed that everybody's been talking about. It's about change. Our worlds have gone through change, business has gone through change, the world has gone through change. As leaders, our job is to help people navigate change, yes? Now answer me this, do people like change? If we want to test that just for certainty, do me a favor and fold your arms for me. No, not that way, the other way. Oh! Freaking weird, right? Like you're being hugged by a stranger. He likes it. He likes it. See, that is one of the simplest of changes I can ask you to make. One of the simplest. But please accept this. Change at best is uncomfortable. At best. And our job as leaders right now is to help other people navigate change. But I think a baseline is change is uncomfortable. That's why we all have jobs. That's why we all get the privilege to do the great work we do, because we're leading industries, organizations, groups full of people, and ourselves through change. We have talked a lot about uncertainty. You know, the only thing I've been certain of in life is uncertainty. Interesting, right? See, when change is coming, one thing we definitely cannot stop is the fact that change is coming. Doesn't matter how much we want to. When I think about a change that's coming, I try to think about it like it's a tidal wave. Can't stop it. No way I can stop that thing coming, but what I can do is I can decide how I respond or react to said change. Same way I can decide how I respond or react to the fact that a tidal wave is coming. Tidal wave is coming, option 1 is let it wash straight over you, leaving you in whatever condition it chooses. That's a choice. Choice 2, pull out a surfboard, see what kind of fun you can have. That too is a choice. Choice 3, use the power of said tidal wave to fuel the next chapter of something. All 3 of these are choices. And what I'm inviting you with the change that you look to be able to bring forward from today, from yesterday, into your organizations, is know that with all the things that are happening right now, how you respond to or react to that is going to be the difference in the story. Make sense? So what my invitation to do is to please, pretty please, do not let it wash over you. Don't let that happen. But take control of how what's happening right now could be a boatload of fun and could help you fuel whatever you want to happen next. We've learned a lot about success. Ridiculously successful people have stood up here on this stage. I've had the privilege of meeting many a successful person in my life, like a ridiculous number of successful people. Yet something I do differently when I meet successful people is I remember the fact that success leaves clues. And often successful people are happy to share it with you. No doubt you've had a lot of success shared with you by other people around these tables, yes? Huge amounts of success. Anytime I've met somebody more successful than me at anything, I've never looked up at them and been like, wow. Instead, what I've done is I've asked the question, how? How did you do what you do? How do you make this change? How did you go about getting to where you've got to today? And I've learned that those people are darn happy to tell you. We talked about elite performance, high performance. Gabe talked about it. Rebecca talked about it. John Foley talked about it, right? How do we perform at the very top of our game? I thought I'd introduce you to some thinking from a conversation I once got to have from somebody who I believe is like the best of the best of the best of the best in their class. I once got the ability to ask questions of a gentleman by the name of Usain Bolt. Any of you know who Usain Bolt is? Most decorated track athlete of all time. This guy's like pretty darn good at what he's done. So the chance to interview him, I remembered that the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment when you're saying it. And I wrote 2 questions that I asked of this young man, and his answers fundamentally changed my world. I thought I'd share the questions and the answers with you before we get started on the real stuff I want to talk to you about today. See, the first question I asked of him was this. I said, you know, on race day, when you're like down on the blocks and you're waiting for the gun to go off. I said, in that moment, what are you thinking? What's going through your head up here? And you know when you ask somebody a question, they kind of like it. He kind of went, huh. And then what he did is he looked left and he looked right and he said, do you want to know what I'm thinking? What I'm thinking is, why did these guys bother showing up? Interesting. The best of the best of the best have no care nor consequence for competition on race day. How much of your time as leaders do you spend looking over your shoulder, looking at what everybody else is up to? Yet right now we're in a period of change where the world is looking to people like you to say, here's what's next. You, my friends, are visionary leaders. How do I know that? Because you're here, right? Because you're here. So if we're looking for clues, your job is to decide where you're going and to get after it. I said there were 2 questions that I asked of this young man. And it was the answer to the second, though, that was a touch more profound. Having seen this young man race on numerous occasions, particularly on the television, what I'd noticed is in the back end of a race, to me, it looked like he wasn't even trying. Anybody seen the same? Like he's in autopilot, on cruise control. And I needed to know what all that was about. So I asked him quite literally, what's all that about? And he said to me this. He said, when I run the 100 meters, I run the best 110 meters of my life. Huh. Now that answer sat with me for a while. I was puzzled by it. I processed it for some time, and I think I got it eventually. I think what he was trying to say is that he runs a different race to everybody else. He moves the finish line. He doesn't call success where everybody else is successful. He pushes the finish line out to a further point. How does that relate towards your business? How do you use that thinking? Well, I figured I'd relate it to a business that's almost identical to everybody else's here in the room. A business that's almost identical to everybody else here in the room is the business of a wedding dress retail store. Get that? Same as your business, right? Owning a wedding dress retail business? Basically the same. Let me explain why. Imagine you're owning a wedding dress retail business and you are deciding to say, today was a good day because, what might you be celebrating? You're probably celebrating the transaction of somebody deciding to buy a wedding dress, yes or yes? That's typically what we would call a good day. Now, show of hands in this room, who's ever worn a wedding dress? Always interesting. Was that the most important day to you? There's a day that comes later than that that's a touch more important, yes? And if you build your systems and processes around that day, chances are every communication changes. Every part of the way you serve your people changes. If you move the finish line out to the finish line that matters most to your key stakeholders. So what's the most important day to the person that was buying the wedding dress? See, the smart people think it's the wedding day for sure. That's an easy thing to jump to. Yet the super smart people know that there's a day that comes later than that that's even more important. It's when she sees herself in the dress, in the photographs. In that moment, she looks at herself in the pictures and is like, dang, I was smoking hot. And in that moment, I made the right choice. I'm happy with my purchase. I'm delighted with the help they gave me to get to that point in time. Crystallized forever. What difference would it make as an organization if you knew the most important day to your key stakeholder was the day they saw themselves in the photographs? How would that change the way you communicate? How would that change the way that you go to be able to do every operation in your business? What would that do to gain the trust of the person you were looking to buy from you? Higher or lower? Significantly higher, correct? Now, show of hands in this room, who as a child said, when I grow up, what I'd like to be is a salesperson? Figured as much. Have some fun with me for a second. Throw some adjectives at me, some describing words that would describe a stereotypical salesperson.
Plastic.
Plastic. Well, I love that one. Keep going. We can be as mean as we like. What we got? Pushy. Extrovert. Persistent. You mean not in a good way. What else? Keep going. We can be mean. Say again. High verbal, like over-communicator. Stereotypical salesperson. What we got? Handsome. Here's a mirror. Okay, what else? Say again? Deceptive. You mean a liar. The law enforcement guy in the room calls people liars. Got it. See this sequence of words? If somebody used that sequence of words to describe you, somebody saw that in you when they met you for the very first time, how are you feeling in here? Right? You're like, icky. Get that off me, quick. What if by alternative, though, I ask you not to describe a stereotypical salesperson? What if by alternative, I ask you to describe a professional salesperson? Helpful, knowledgeable, problem solver. What else? Say again? A great listener. Let's keep going. Curious. Love that. Caring. Partner. Compassionate. What else over here? Truthful. We were a liar a second ago. Trusted. Wow. If somebody used those words to describe you, somebody saw that in you when they met you for the first time, how are we feeling now? See it here, you're like, yeah, I'm good with that. Two tiny, massive lessons to catch. Two tiny, massive lessons. The first is this. Being a salesperson is not a bad thing. The perception of being a salesperson is what is the bad thing. What does that mean is in any given environment, when somebody says to you that you are a great salesperson, there's a strong possibility that that is not a compliment. It means you've been caught trying to sell something to somebody. Sometimes a product or service, sometimes an idea or an outcome. But you've been caught. What they're doing is they're seeing a version of you that is that first set of adjectives. What we're really looking for is not applause for our sales skills. We're looking for gratitude. The silent applause of a job well done in a sales environment is the receipt of the words thank you. That's the applause we're looking for. That's the job well done. Yet I said there were two tiny massive lessons, correct? Second one's bigger. In that set of examples, I changed one word. And when I changed one word, you changed all of the words. First up, stereotypical. You saw a series of images in your mind's eye you didn't like the look of, yes? Swap the word stereotypical to professional. You saw a completely different set of images. You went, yeah, good with that. I changed one word. You changed all the words. So question for you right now. Could it be possible that in many of the critical conversations where you're looking to influence other people, they don't always see what you're saying? And this means yes, it could be possible. See, we are all selling something, yes? All of us. And being a salesperson is not a bad thing. And if we're going to create change, we've got to learn to be able to sell and influence other people to see things from a different point of view. So answer me this, salespeople born or made, what do we think? Born or made? Let's try this from another angle. What does a 3-year-old do when they want something? First thing they do is they ask. Failing that, they ask again, and again, and again, and again. Failing that, what do? Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. See, we were all born with the innate ability to be able to sell things. Every single one of us in this room. Every single one of us. Finish this sentence for me. If you do not ask, we know that to be true. Your success is in direct correlation to the quantity of quality asks that you make in your life, period. Your success is in direct correlation to the quantity of quality asks that you make in your life, period. That'd be a fact. So knowing that is true, what is it that stops you and people like you from asking for the things they want in life? What stops you? Help me out, guys. Fear of rejection. I can ask that anywhere in the world, I get the exact same response. Fear, rejection, or fear of rejection. I want to play with these things just for a quick second. Firstly, let's take the rejection piece. Show of hands in this room, who's been rejected by somebody they care about in the last 7 days? You're like, dinner tonight, I'd like this, and they're like, no. You're like, next vacation, I'd love to go here. They're like, never. You're like, let's have fun in the bedroom, and she's like, not tonight, honey. I don't know what it was. You had one idea, you got rejected. More often than not, you're fine with it. Why? Why? In our day-to-day life, are we fine with rejection, yet in our business life, we put so much fear around it? Why? Because you knew that chicken and broccoli was still in your future. You knew that. Still going to be able to get that later down the track. See, they're never saying no to you. They're only ever saying no to it. In fact, rarely are they saying no to it. They're saying no to it right now. That's worth remembering, right? Rarely are they saying no to you. They're more likely saying no to it. Almost never are they saying no to it. They're only saying no to it right now. Show of hands in the room who spent money on something they wouldn't have dreamed of buying like 6 years ago in the last 3 months. Why? Because your circumstances have changed. People's circumstances are changing all the time. Your job is to be front of mind throughout all of that. So that's the rejection piece I want you reframing. Rejection is part of the game. I can't change it. But they're not saying no to you. They might be saying no to it. But they're probably just saying no to it right now. But let's take the fear thing. Is fear real? Yes or no? I've seen people try and convince us that it's not real. Ever seen people turning it into like an acronym? Put it up on a flip chart, all proud. Flip chart, F-E-A-R. And they say things like, all that fear really is it's false evidence appearing real. I must have seen that a gazillion times. And every time I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, that's cute. Right? You know what I see in industries like this with leaders like you folks when faced with fear? What I see by alternative is I see F everything and run. It's like, how do we not do this? How do we just run in the other direction? We gotta get okay with this kind of stuff. So why don't I share with you the most important lesson that I came here to share with you today? And the most important lesson I came to share with you today was, Oh yeah, that's it. When is the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say? It's right in the very moment you're saying it, right? Right in the very moment you're saying it. How many of you have come away from critical conversations thinking shoulda, woulda, coulda? How many times have you come away from a critical conversation and thought, darn, why on earth did I say that? Yeah, it's so difficult to do something after the fact. If you took that same energy, put that same energy up front, chances are you'd increase your efficiency in the moment. Fair? You're going to learn in our time together today that I'm a little pedantic about word choices. So much so that I did write this little book about them. It's a book I'm insanely proud of. I'm proud of it for like a gazillion reasons, but one big one is it's like a genuine bestseller. Sold now over 1.4 million copies, translated into 29 different languages. This little book right here, it outsold 50 Shades of Grey and Harry Potter. Did, right? For one whole day. You celebrate your wins, I'm taking mine. It's a book full of what I call my magic words. What are magic words? They're sequences of words that talk straight towards the subconscious brain. Subconscious brain is powerful. You've learned a lot about it through the last couple of days. Why is it powerful? Because it has a yes output and a no output. There is no maybe in subconscious. See, people think that no is the enemy of yes. It's not. Indecision is the enemy. Maybe is the enemy. Your job as leaders is to help people make decisions, not get stuck in maybe. So if you can speak to the part of somebody's brain that is fundamentally more decisive, it will make decisions quicker. Therefore, it will take action quicker. Therefore, you will gain transaction quicker. Make sense? Still confused about this subconscious brain? I'll give you an example of where it served you. Do any of you remember like a familiar car ride where you remember getting in the morning and then you remember arriving at the destination and have no idea how you got there? Subconscious brain took the drive. Don't worry, anything unusual happened. Conscious brain would kick in, grab the wheel in a nanosecond, you'd be in full control. But we're leaning on it all day, every day. Think of it quite simply as nothing more than a little voice inside your head. That's it. And if you're sat there right now thinking that you haven't got a little voice inside your head, then that's the little voice telling you haven't got a little voice. We all have one. Learning to speak to other people's is what gives you a fair advantage in almost every critical conversation. I'm going to give you some examples, but knowing how smart you folks are in the room, I wanted to give you some of the structure and frameworks behind it. The book has 23 sequences of words, but they're really built on deep-rooted psychological principles. I thought that if you're thinking right now that the change that you're looking to make in your organization requires you to enter into some tough conversations, some critical conversations, in order to win the trust that you know you need to change the outcomes you're looking for, knowing the structure might give you everything you need. See, for every critical conversation that you enter into, there are only 3 ingredients that you require. 3 very specific ingredients in a precise order. First of those critical ingredients is curiosity. Every great conversation needs to start from a position of curiosity. I know you know a lot about a lot. I know that. But if you show up into a conversation knowing a lot about a lot, what you're going to create is do you now? Right? Rubs people up the wrong way. Ironically, certainty in conversation leads to uncertainty in the other person's opinion in you. Isn't that strange? The more certain you show up to a situation, the more uncertainty you create in other people. Curiosity, by alternative, gets you towards certainty. Why? Because it helps you understand their context. You have a lot of content you want to share with people, yet your content before context is merely noise. Do the work to understand their context before you insert your content. What do we heighten? Trust. We heighten trust when you do the work to understand their context first. Now you've understood their context, we dance towards the 3rd ingredient. 2nd ingredient even. Wow, I can't count. Empathy. It's like a buzzword right now, right? Empathy. People throw it around like confetti at a wedding. They still don't know what it means. Best definition I ever heard for empathy comes from a speaker, author friend of mine by the name of John Acuff. John Acuff describes empathy as to care about what the people you care about care about. That's easy, right? Care about what the people you care about care about. If you want to test how good you are at this, do me this favor. Check your last sent emails. When you're back in the office tomorrow, go through your outbox and see who the hero of the story is on your last sent emails. See who the person is the primary benefactor. See who you're showing your care about in those emails. See, there's a button that exists inside our head. Every decision maker has the same button. It's called the Show Me That You Know Me button. The second you trigger the Show Me That You Know Me button, it stops being this, and it starts being this. It's not you versus them, it's you and them versus it. That's the goal we're looking for. Empathy gets us towards being relatable, which is what people are looking for in a leader, right? Somebody who can relate to them. Empathy gets us there. Show of hands in this room, who has somebody you could ask them to do just about anything reasonable and you'd say, yeah, sure. Who knows at least one person like that, right? Sure. And you equally have people in your life that could ask you to do the exact same thing. And when they ask you, you're like, me? Really? Now? You got a million questions and a dozen reasons why you can't. What's the difference? Trust. So how do you get to trust in critical conversations? You start off curious, you then get to empathy. So you become relatable. You learned earlier on that if you do not ask, you do not get. We know that to be true. Why do we not want to ask for the things we want in life? Because we're fearful of rejection. We learned that. We're fearful of rejection because we didn't do the work before the work to create the context and see things through their eyes. So the third ingredient is courage. And not like jump out of an aeroplane courage, get in a wrestling ring courage, not that kind of courage, not go to war courage. I'm talking about the courage to just ask. Finish this sentence for me. If you do not ask, you do not get, you do not receive. Because your success is in direct correlation to the quantity of quality asks that you make in your life, period. And the trouble is if we start off courageously asking for the things that we want in our life, we're pushy, we're rude, we're obnoxious, we're all the things we didn't want to be. But when you do it in this order, you get the action you're looking for. That's what happens, because it's built on a foundation of trust.